Hi guys, what's up? It's Alex here, and today we're here with more F1 news on this channel. Now this news is quite important to the main part of the grid because it's one of the biggest teams on the grid, and the guy currently second in the championship is driving for this team. So let's get into this and talk about Lotus, because they are having a huge amount of problem with money at the moment. They are reported to be 120 million euros in debt, and they're trying to obviously sort that out. That's obviously not a good thing, because that's a lot of money that Lotus have got to find, and they've got to find it fast, otherwise they're going to find themselves in major issues. Now Lotus obviously up there in the championship. We've got Kimi Raikkonen second placed at the moment in the championship, and obviously Grosjean performing quite well in recent races. And if I think there's reports over the last couple of weeks and months that Kimi Raikkonen hasn't been paid, so obviously Lotus has had this problem for quite a long time. We might end up seeing a little situation like we're seeing at Sauber currently, where the Sergei Sirotkin driver, who has literally a huge amount of sponsorship from his parents, and that's going to buy him an F1 drive more than it is down to skill, which is hugely sad, which leads on to another point which Mark Webber has announced, well not announced, but he's talked about over the last couple of weeks, which saying that the Formula 1 grid is dropping in recent years. And probably going to have to agree with that. If you look at the grid now in comparison to 10 years ago, the grid is quite different. About 10 years ago you probably had 2 drivers that didn't make it more than a couple of seasons. So, and then nowadays you've got people getting kicked out after 1 season. I mean, both Marussia drivers were kicked out last year. Both of the Caterham drivers didn't make it into this year. So that's 4 out of 4 drivers in the back 2 teams that didn't make it into this year, and they're now sort of in quotations pay drivers for pretty much all of them now. Obviously we know Charles Peake brings in quite a bit of money, so does Van der Garde, Chilton does. Not 100% sure about Bianchi, but I'm sure it comes with some sort of backing, because that Marussia probably would have went for somebody else if they'd realised that they would have brought them more money instead. But it's an interesting thing. Mark Webber obviously always speaks his mouth, which I think is a great thing. We always need people that actually speak what they really think in Formula 1. When we just get people that go to maybe they just go along with what the company wants them to do, it's sometimes just not very fun for the sport, as we don't get to see the real characters behind the driving seats. But yeah, I'll leave a link to both those articles down in the description, the Mark Webber one and the Lotus coming into money issue one, because both of them quite important. Obviously more the Lotus one, because obviously Lotus, Kimi Raikkonen going for the championship, and if they can't pay Raikkonen, who knows what's going to happen. It's unlikely he'll stay there if they can't pay him, and it's more likely they might have to get some sort of pay driver next year, maybe somebody that doesn't really deserve that seat. Next up we'll talk about McLaren, because obviously a big British team that lots of people support, and we'll just talk about them and Jenson Button's quote over the last couple of weeks and days, how the McLaren will most likely be going to Spa with a lot stronger car. And I suppose that's a good thing, when we saw in Hungary that he could keep a Red Bull behind for quite a huge amount of laps in comparison to the car's sort of performance. The Red Bull obviously a lot faster than the McLaren. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I'm sure it's around the tune of about still 1 second a lap. That McLaren is not faster whatsoever, but somehow Jenson Button's doing a really good job. So is Sergio Perez, but sadly Sergio Perez hasn't been exactly getting as many points as Jenson Button this year, but you'd probably expect that as it is his first year in a top flight team. But Jenson Button, expecting the McLaren to come to form at Spa. Hopefully it does, because obviously I want to see more people up there going for the wins of races. I think this year we haven't really had a huge amount of teams. I think we've only had 3 teams that have won a race: Ferrari, Red Bull and also Lotus. I think that's the only 3 teams that have won a race so far this year. So it's not really anything like 2012. Obviously a lot of people hyping up 2013 to be even better. I think for me 2012 was probably the best season for a good 5 or 10 years, and I don't think 2013 is, to be honest, anywhere near it in terms of excitement. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the McLaren does at Spa. Obviously we're going to wait a couple of weeks until then, but looking forward to that. Hopefully the McLaren does come to form, and maybe they can have a chance at their first podium of the year so far. But yeah, until then guys, thank you all for watching this video. I appreciate it massively, and yeah, watch this end to the race, as this Squires guy makes a big mistake going into the final corner, which gives me a great run going down to the start-finish line. But he decides, no, I'm not going to give you that position. Rams me into the wall, does a 360. I finish line backwards and still get third. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. It's Bags, I'm out here. Goodbye.